everyone, this is Keith Scott from out in Sydney, Australia. I'm one of the voices of Bullwinkle J. Moose. It's time to watch Relentless and Unstoppable. And so give it up for your main hosts, Douglas Kelly and Andy McPhee.
Standard, I feel like, similar to most of my friends who, grew up in that small town. It's, again, sort of interesting, like, comparatively with friends I have now who grew up in the city, just, like, thinking about, like, what we did differently and, like, what our days and our weekends looked like. But, in Rochi, I went to school in Rochi, both for primary and secondary school, and on the weekends, you just played sport. So I play a lot of netball, which, for the American followers, you might need to Google it. But that's such a big thing in the country towns, like that sporting community. So I really enjoyed being part of that, and that sort of carried through to my life now as well. And then, worked at the local supermarket, helped. We have a river in town that we live really close to, and my dad was part of the committee that sort of maintained and helped develop that. So I spent a lot of weekends planting trees there, which I didn't necessarily enjoy as a child, spending my weekends doing, hard labour. But now when I go home and I walk down there, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's some of the trees I planted. There's the sign I helped make. Like, oh yeah, there's the seat that Dad built. So I think I can definitely appreciate it more now.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So when you moved from North Victoria to the capital and the big, great city of Melbourne, what were your first thoughts? Were you scared or were you excited or both?
Definitely a combination of both. So we hadn't come to Melbourne that much when I was growing up. I think we'd maybe done a couple of trips as a family. But my parents don't, they don't love the city, which is fair enough, especially when they've grown up in the country, and they've sort of taken us to explore a lot more of Australia. But for me, I'd only been here a couple of times, and when I had been, with school trips, it was very whoa, I was very bright-eyed, and oh my goodness. So there was definitely that excitement. And I think fortunately for me, again, because we're from a small town, the only real opportunities if you're wanting to do further education is to move to a bigger city. And at the time, the sort of, mid-level regional city Bendigo, which is quite close to us, didn't have a strong university. So it was really just you'd move to Melbourne or you might move elsewhere. So a lot of my friends from school were here as well. But it was definitely tough. I think it was probably tougher than I thought it would be, trying to get a job that first year here was really challenging. I was living with my sister, so she was at uni, and we just had an apartment together, and it was a little bit isolating in that sense because I wasn't working for quite a while. I wasn't playing netball because I didn't know how to join anything in Melbourne, so there was definitely sort of a very steep learning curve.
Yeah, was the city so big that you had to learn a lot while you were there?
Oh, absolutely. I'm still terrified of doing hook turns, which I don't know if you have those in the States, but pretty much you go out when the light is green, but then you're trying to turn right or left, and then you just sit in the intersection until the direction you're turning goes green, which it makes zero sense. Just put a green arrow. So that stresses me out. One of my first trips to the city, there's a couple of big roundabouts with multiple exits. And this was, I'm a little bit older, so this was before, Google Maps and GPS was actually a proper thing. And I just remember I got stuck in this roundabout with my friend, and we ended up having to call her mum, and her mum had to look us up, where we were on a map and tell us how to get out of it. So there was definitely a lot of learning, but, I feel like I finally have settled in after nearly 14 years here.
Nice. So the way those trees grew in North Victoria, Melbourne grew on you a bit?
You could definitely say that, yes.
Gee, that's all we have for Relentless and Unstoppable. So tune into the next episode to hear more amazing stories from amazing guests. This is Keith Scott from Sydney, Australia saying so long, and I'm smarter than the average bear. Gee.